Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Courageous Leadership Colloquium. This is a short session that we are using to preview a great study and a great model about courageous leadership that we can use every day. And so Alex Budak, who is an author of an article that was in the Harvard Business Review just a few weeks ago, just in time for the Courageous Leadership Colloquium, put together this model to help us think about every day how we can model and use and choose courageous leadership. And so we're going to walk through that model and we're going to talk about kind of the big ideas, the key ideas. And I do encourage you to grab that article, particularly if you're here in the University of Olivet ecosystem. We do have access to Harvard Business Review in our library system. You can download the PDF, and there's a great chart in there. I'm going to share it with you today, real small on our slides. And I want you to grab the article so you can have that chart and you can maybe stick it on your refrigerator or put it in your binder or hang it on your wall to remind yourself of ways that we can use courageous leadership every day. So let's take a look at Alex's ideas. Alex is a professor at UC Berkeley, and he's based this research on hundreds of observations and some surveys that he's done and interviews that he's had with folks, and has defined these 6 different types of everyday courage or everyday courageous leadership. And he's framed them into a playbook, so to speak. So we know how to use them and what to look for and what to be cautious about in our tactics. Before we jump into that model, though, let's remind ourselves of how we've defined leadership and courage in our study so far during the colloquium. Remember that leadership is a process where an individual uses their knowledge, skills, and abilities to influence a group of individuals to achieve a common goal. So remember that black box is those knowledge, skills, and abilities that a leader has to decide which ones they're going to put in that box based on the context that they're leading in. Do they need strategic skills? Do they need creative skills, communication skills, problem-solving skills, data analytics skills? Whatever those skills are, the leader has to determine, has to continually assess, what do I need in my toolbox? And at the same time, the leader has to determine what skills, knowledge, and abilities the followers need in order to come together and contribute to their part of the goal. So as we look at this model, know that it tells us that we are continually growing and evolving in our skills, and we're focusing a lot in these 2 days on skills that help us with courage. And so as we think about everyday courage, this is an opportunity for us to think about how can we use and practice these particular skills every day. So this is our leadership definition. Now let's look back at courage. What is courage? Mental or moral strength to withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. That's from the dictionary, Nelson Mandela. Not the absence of fear, but triumph over it. It's a brave man who doesn't feel afraid. It's not he who doesn't feel afraid, but who conquers the fear. Pushing beyond your comfort zone, asking for what you want, saying what you think, fighting for what you believe, choosing what's good, right, and kind, even when it's hard or scary. And then finally, Dr. Martin Luther King says, courage is an inner resolution to go forward despite obstacles. So if we think about leadership as an individual who uses knowledge, skills, and abilities to bring people together toward a common goal, using those skills and their mental and moral strength to do that even when it's scary, is what a courageous leader does. So in this same Harvard Business Review article that this particular model, that Alex's model is in, we have Ranjay Gulati, who is another researcher, who he created another model that helps us understand courageous leadership in terms of what strategies a courageous leader needs to use in order to, what strategies a leader needs to use in order to be courageous. And he gives us a definition that really pulls together those other definitions that we looked at. Courage is a willingness to take bold, risky action to serve a purpose that you perceive to be worthy, usually in the face of an abiding fear. So taking risk, being willing to face that fear and move forward. So Ranjay, we have another another session that talks about Ranjay's model. Again, this article is in that Harvard Review issue. So now let's jump back to Alex's model, where he says that we have 6 types of everyday courage. Those 6 types are moral courage, social courage, emotional courage, intellectual courage, creative courage, and physical courage. And so we're going to just walk through really quickly each one of them, and then you're going to download the article and you're going to read the nuts and bolts and the how-tos, right? So moral courage, there are some risks that are inherent in using moral courage or not. Like what's scary about having to face moral issues. There's reputation damage and lost revenue, political backlash if you don't use moral courage. And then there's specific leadership actions that you need to use in order to demonstrate moral courage. You have to prioritize your principles. You have to know your principles. You have to grab a set of values and embrace those values and use those values to make your decisions. And you have to make sure that those values take precedence when you're in a situation of conflict, of conflicting values. You have to use your moral code that you have adopted in order to move forward. So you have to be courageous enough to stand your ground, right? And the payoff is that you get long-term trust and integrity that your followers and your stakeholders and people who are just observing from the stands see you as a moral leader. So in order to have moral courage, the first thing you have to do is clarify your core values. So whether it is the core values that you get from your religious practice, from the Bible or the Quran, there are core values in there. If you choose potentially the 6 pillars of character from Character Counts, choose your core values, know what those are, be able to define them for yourself, and be able to operationalize what does it look like when I'm using and following these core values. And before a crisis occurs, be ready to commit. So practice thinking about in situations, how would I use this particular value? So someone with moral courage uses that framework of values to as the strength, as the backbone of that courage that helps them to lead. So social courage is where we need to make sure that we're really focused on the leadership task is at hand, even if it might alienate some people if they're not willing to move forward with the goal. So there might be some people who aren't going to buy in, and all of a sudden, from that particular group of people, you might be ostracized, right? There might be career penalties if you're going to choose to go in a particular direction. It doesn't align with the core values of the people you work for or the organizational core values. And so the things that you do when you have social courage is you say, you know what, I'm going to speak up because of what I believe is right for society, even if it's not what's popular with everyone else. And so it's speaking up against misconduct, against groupthink, about what's happening in a society that isn't for the greatest good and isn't for the benefit of humankind. And so the payoff of that is creating a culture of psychological safety, of belonging, of inclusion, of everyone being able to be part of the group and part of whatever that initiative is you're moving forward. So in order to have social courage, the first thing you have to do is name the risk. So what's the risk you're willing to take in society and in belonging, to do that thing, and then speak your truth and hold to it. And then if someone else is willing to stand next to you and speak their truth as well, reward that, support that, give them opportunities to grow in their ability to dissent. And so yeah, no, don't ever punish people that dissent if they are based on those principled values that you're bringing forward. Emotional courage is about being vulnerable, being willing to be hurt, being willing to be afraid, being willing to feel what needs to be felt and demonstrate that you feel. It's like not being that brick wall person, letting people know that it's okay to be outwardly demonstrating how you feel. And so the challenge in that is you're all of a sudden vulnerable. You might not, it might be hard to hold it together. And so what you're doing when you have emotional courage is you're willing to just name your feelings and name what the impacts are of things that are going on, even if it's uncomfortable to do that. And the payoff is your followers are going to say, this person feels deeply, this person is willing to be authentic, this person is willing to be upfront with me, and I trust them because I know that they're doing things for the right reasons and they're willing to feel what needs to be felt in order to move forward. To have emotional courage, you have to own the feelings. Not you have to play a role in a room and you have to make sure that everybody looks up to you as someone who's got it together, right? You have to own the feelings, say, yeah, I feel that way. I feel that way. And I'm gonna have to work through it. Don't worry about what other people are thinking. Be who you are and be authentic. In order to have emotional courage, you need to notice, name, and ground your emotions. So, learning about emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman's framework of emotional intelligence, there's also a really great website called Emotional Intelligence, and it has these really cool infographics on it that walk you through the process of emotional intelligence. So, Google that. Google emotional intelligence visualizations and animations. It's just really cool. I'm not sure exactly what it's called. But yeah, so emotional intelligence or emotional courage builds trust with your followers. They see that you're real, that you feel, and that's important for a lot of people. The next type of courage is intellectual courage, where you're willing to put out ideas that you believe in, with the courage that, you know what, you might be wrong. And you're taking a risk and maybe challenging existing ideas or existing frameworks and models. You could even be undermining authority with this intellectual understanding that's different from what the status quo is or the current zeitgeist. So what you're doing is you are questioning your own assumptions, questioning the greater assumptions about a particular issue, and saying, what if this was actually different? And being willing to say that and invite people to talk about it, invite people to argue about it, invite people to dissent, but invite people to think deeply about a particular contact or a particular idea so that you can really so that everyone can really crystallize how they understand that idea and how they can move it forward. And so what happens if we have intellectual courage, if we put ideas out there and really invite people to dig into these ideas, it helps people learn because it helps people will go out and search and research and deeply understand whatever these concepts are. And it just helps that the whole group learn. So in order to have intellectual courage, you have to interrogate your own thinking. You have to ask yourself, why do I believe what I believe about this particular idea? For example, privilege, or for example, sustainability, or for example, climate change. How do I feel about this and why? And if I'm not sure about that why, then I need to dig into the research and I need to understand which side I'm on and be willing to stand up based on the intellectual fuel that I have based on my research that I've done, either reading and speaking with experts or doing my own actual experimental research. So ask how you feel, challenge your own thinking, and if you want to think in a different way, test it, fight with it, chew on it, and be willing to just really be courageous with ideas. Here's something to think about. Detaching yourself from ideas is important. You can put a new idea out there, and particularly if you're in the sciences, if you're a scientist and you're experimenting and you have set up an experiment based on theories and models that are proven, that are evidence-based, and you're testing those to see if you can take that knowledge to the next level. Know that if you've got that evidence and that theory behind the work that you're doing and you're testing, maybe you'll end up you're wrong. But you can say, I'm wrong, and I had the intellectual courage to test this idea against what we already know And you know what? Now we know more. Now we know that this is not what we need to believe, this thing that I tried to test. So don't think I failed because I didn't prove a new idea. You can prove that a new idea is not correct. And that's equally as valuable, but don't let it impact you in terms of your feeling about your competence. If you're willing to test things and grow, you're a courageous leader in that area and you're helping people understand at more depth. Creative courage is trying new things, just proposing things, challenging the status quo, thinking about, trying new combinations of, and maybe putting out opportunities that sound crazy, and that no one has ever tried before. People might think you're crazy. People might ridicule you. People might think there's just no way that that's going to work. And so people might roll their eyes at you. I have people roll their eyes at me all the time. But so there's risks involved in that there's going to be a percentage of people that are going to think you're just kind of out on a different planet, and that's okay, because there are going to be other people that are going to join up with you in whatever creative idea you have and say, you know what, that might just work. And so what this creativity or what this creative confidence or this creative courage is being willing to put ideas out there about new products, new services, new solutions, new combinations of food, new ways of looking at the world, putting those ideas out there and then testing them to see if they'll actually fly, to see if actually people will actually use them or buy into them or apply them. So it's just trying new things that haven't ever been tried before. Sometimes they'll work, sometimes they won't work. But again, going back to that intellectual courage, as long as you have evidence and you're gathering evidence and you can explain the value in what your experiments are, you're okay. Don't feel bad about what you're doing. Be courageous in testing it out and getting data. Data has value. So, what is the result or what is the payoff of creative courage? Breakthroughs. I mean, where all the inventions and patents of the millions of people who have come up with brand new ideas. I mean, that's where technology, I mean, that's where we went from writing on stone to computers. So creative courage is what helps a civilization move forward. You got to try new things, and be willing to take the risk and be willing to just say, ha ha ha, when someone rolls their eyes and just keep on moving forward. Bring your team and just keep on moving forward. Finally, physical courage, doing hard things, carrying hard things, climbing hard things, going really fast. Sure, you're putting yourself in danger. Thinking about taking a hike out in the wilderness, and I'm on a path this narrow, and it's straight, not straight down, but very, very steep down, and it's just gravel. And I imagine to myself, if I hit the edge of that and my foot starts to slip, that's it. I'm just going to keep on going. But knowing that I am risking that safety because I want to accomplish a hard thing, so I can say, I did this, and I can get to the top of that mountain and I can look over this vista and see the entire Flathead Valley, which is out in Montana, and just be absolutely just awestruck with where I am in the world because I was willing to take this physical risk is totally worth it. So being rational, of course, I had my hiking sticks. There were times I was terrified and I had to stop, use my mindfulness and get through it. But being able to push yourself to do hard things can really increase your courage in the other areas as well. Because that pounding, that adrenaline, that, oh my gosh, I can't even believe it, exercise that happens or effect that happens when you're doing hard physical things can actually help you to modulate that feeling when you're doing stressful things, when you need those other types of courage. So it's just really good. It's really good for your body, but be careful. Be careful. Do things within your limits, but and learn a lot, train, be prepared. Make sure that you have everything you need and make sure that someone knows where you are. But physical courage, pushing yourself is just really good for your sense of accomplishment and your sense of self. So show up. And also, if you see a situation where there's physical safety issues, be willing to call those out. So it's not just facing your own, having courage to do your own things, but having your courage to keep other people safe. Um, so, so I went in a different direction than Eric did in his, no, Alex, well, how Alex did in his, conceptualization of physical courage. But know that keeping people safe, keeping yourself safe, but also pushing yourself is super important. So, keep thinking about how you can use everyday courage. Read this article because it really goes more in depth. I mean, he's the expert on everyday courage, and he's done quite a bit of research on it. Oh, I forgot to turn the page there. But know that when you're using everyday courage, you're building your ability to do harder and harder and bigger things. And you're also building the capacity of your team to do hard things. When your team sees you use intellectual courage and challenge ideas in a respectful way, always in a respectful way, when your team sees you be emotionally vulnerable and show your actual feelings about something that happened in the organization or something that happened in the community, it helps them to understand that it's okay to be authentic. So every time you are a courageous leader, you're modeling the ability for other people to take risks and grow so that they can become courageous leaders as well. So courageous leadership isn't about the things that you see in the newspaper or the things that you read on the internet about this person did this amazing thing or challenged this horrible awfulness or made this amazing discovery. It's not about those big things. It's about doing things with courage and trying new things and being willing to put yourself in uncomfortable situations that might be scary, might not go well, so that you can grow, so that your team can grow, and so that you can achieve the things that you want to achieve. If we don't push ourselves, if we don't do scary things, we're not going to move forward and create new opportunities and improve the world that we live in. So keep that in mind, and keep pushing yourself to be courageous in your leadership. So we've got lots of opportunities for you to learn courageous leadership and learn leadership skills here at the University of Olivet. We've got our Master of Arts and MBA programs that I'm happy to talk with you about. Feel free to email me at kcorey@uolivet.edu, and we can walk through a plan for a 1-year master's, a 2-year master's. If you're in your bachelor's program and you want to pursue your master's degree at the same time, we can do that by doubling up some of your master's and undergraduate courses and double counting them so that you can walk away in 5 years from the University of Olivet with 2 degrees, your bachelor's degree and your master's degree. So let's talk about that. And also let's talk about, are you really looking for a master's program that trains you to be a transformational, inspirational, team building, emotionally intelligent leader? Everybody should be emotionally intelligent, but it really focuses on that. That would be the MAL, the Master of Arts in Leadership. Or are you looking to be strategic, analytic, structural, kind of creating structures and functions, managerial, supervisory leader? You would want to be in the Master of Business Administration. So it's more of the technical side as opposed to the more human services and human side of leadership. So those things are available at the master's level. At the undergrad, we can pop you into some of those introductory leadership courses in the master's program that you can use for your electives. You can also pursue a graduate leadership certificate. So that's 5 courses, 15 credit hours. You take our leadership theory and practice course, and then you concentrate in creativity, innovation, and change, nonprofit organization or nonprofit management and leadership, sport coaching leadership, or sport and rec management. So that's our MBA concentration. We also can do MBA concentrations in accounting, enterprise risk management, insurance, and general business, but we don't do certificates in those. And then at the undergraduate level, we've got our Global Citizens Honors Program, which is a fantastic opportunity if you really want to dig into a particular topic or a particular discipline, and you want to become a thought leader in that area. The GCSB, GCHP, GCHP is a great program. You'll have mentors that will help you to dig into research. You'll have opportunities to share your findings, to have a public voice in thought leadership in that particular area, opportunities to do some travel. So check that out if you're really into kind of research in a particular area. President's Leadership Institute, students who are high achieving in their classes that are really demonstrating leadership in their in the classes that they're taking in their program are nominated by faculty to apply for the President's Leadership Institute. It's a year-long program. You meet every other week for 2.5 hours on Wednesdays. And it's very much about strategic leadership and a great opportunity to build a great network here at the University of Olivet, build your leadership skills, and also have some cool opportunities to lead. And then finally, the KBB Scholars Women's Leadership Institute is for anyone who's interested in building a leadership community, doing experiential learning activities, and just really exploring ideas around leadership, and then taking those ideas in leadership into doing community activities as well. So happy to talk with you about all of these different opportunities to learn leadership and to find leadership opportunities here on campus. Simply email me, kcorey@uolivet.edu, and we can have a conversation. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you have a courageous day. Thanks so much.